Namaste, fellow air signs. This is the biweekly reading for the period of today, December 31st, the last day of the decade, the last day of the year, 2019. It goes through January 12th, which is a Sunday of 2020. That feels even so weird to say. All right, so didn't expect to be back here with this type of reading. For those of you who are familiar with the readings, I'm doing all three air signs together, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, the same way I did all three fire signs. And then after us, I'll do all three water signs. The reason I'm doing it like this is because I had been doing biweekly readings for every sign. And really the earth signs were the only ones that were consistently giving me the views to make it worthwhile to put my energy into it. As it relates to YouTube. I mean, my biggest problem is really YouTube, honestly. And if the views don't get, like, the people can help, right? My biggest problem is YouTube. They don't put the stuff in the feed. They don't send out the notifications properly. But the earth signs still somehow make it to my channel and watch the videos. So they must be fighting extra hard to see them. So, they're reciprocating my energy. I'm reciprocating their energy. And that's why I had only been reading for them. But then I had a few people ask me specifically for Sagittarius of the fire signs. And then most recently, someone asked me, would you mind doing one reading for all, for each of the remaining three elements, fire, water, air. And I said, you know what, that sounds fair. So I will do that. So I've done all three earth signs. If you have earth in your chart too, and you're interested in seeing those, or you're dealing with somebody who is an earth sign, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, each of those signs has its own reading. And then I've done one reading thus far, like I said, for the element of fire, and this is the one for the element of air. Also, very interesting, speaking of the earth signs, in the Capricorn reading, I had recommended to them that they invest in Hasbro. This is so random. I recommended to them that they invest in Hasbro. And I swear to you, within like a half hour after doing that reading on Facebook, I saw this article in XXL magazine, which is a hip hop magazine, that Hasbro had purchased Death Row Records. I promise I did not know prior. I even in the last video asked, I said, may I be stricken down if I'm lying right this moment. And I wouldn't play around like that. I wouldn't ask to be stricken down if I was lying. I absolutely am not. I suggested Hasbro, told them to invest, and there probably is still time for them or anybody else interested in getting in on that before the stock prices go up too high. I had been telling people for the longest to invest in like Impossible Burger, and one of them is not on the market. I don't remember if it's Impossible. Of the two, what's the name of the other one? I can't think of the name of the other one. But one is on the market, the public open market, and one wasn't. But I had been telling people like, buy, and they hadn't. Finally, one guy wanted to listen to me. He looked and he was like, it was like so cheap for like a year. And now it's $200 something a share. I'm like, nobody cared. I kept saying buy. So don't let that happen again. Long story short, don't let that happen again. If you're looking to invest in something, Hasbro might be a good thing. Because that was super random. What else I want to tell you guys? So I do also a weekly general reading and a weekly love reading that is more specifically for divine union, people that consider themselves divine beings, spiritual beings, on a particular spiritual path, twin flames, even soul, that are, have a soulmate, either that they're with or that they believe is out there in the world that they're seeking, and they feel this is seeking them. Those are for whom I specifically read. Illumined beings, members of the 144,000, the members of the elect and the illumined. That's for whom I read, and for whom I had been reading for 3 years since I started doing this. So I still do those weekly general and love readings. Well, my love reading for last week, I used the thumbnail of a phoenix, and I had been talking about the phoenix, but one of the cards, the overall energy was this card Phoenix. And I spent so much time on that one card Didn't know why at the time. I'm like, for some reason I'm being made to tell you everything I know about the Phoenix. Like I went into the history and all this kind of stuff. And sure enough, the same week, so like over this weekend, I ended up reading articles and then posting them on my social media. The first was the Northern Lights over Ireland appeared in the shape of a phoenix. And so I do have that on my social media if anybody that hasn't seen it yet and wants to see it. And the second one was a mountain, a volcano in Sicily, that the lava was coming up over the mountain also in the shape of a phoenix. And then my general reading, I have been going on about trumpets, and I even named the video, this was last week's general, I even named the video Sound the Trumpets. And sure enough, trumpets are have been reported to have been heard all over the Middle East. People in Israel, people in Turkey, they're all like waiting for the Messiah over the weekend because they heard these trumpets. So stay tuned for more predictions, more stuff unfolding. I myself am like, waiting to see what this is all going to mean. All right, so let's see what is in store specifically for us air signs. We have an overall energy that is our own energy. The King of Swords in reverse. He is a Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius, or someone like into those traits or attributes. When I picked him up, I'm seeing that also behind him is our energy as well. The High Priestess in reverse, who for me is a Gemini. She's even Major Arcana card 2 with the Gemini symbol right there on the top, sitting between these twin pillars. But for the colors on the pillars, they're the same. The goddess Isis on the front, preceding Venus, who is now, the esoteric ruler of Gemini, but she was first, right? And like Jesus said, before all of this, I am. So that is definitely like Gemini energy there. And it helps me, but also in the tarot, in all fairness, it does relate to water signs as well. So it helps me to understand why we may be beginning with an overall energy or focus energy of the moon in reverse as well, because the High Priestess in reverse is not only a very spiritual card, whether she's upright or reverse, but very intuitive too. And she might be having trouble like hearing or seeing, like receiving messages. However you get your messages, you may be having difficulty receiving them, and you're not sure, some of it could be illusion versus reality, and you're really not sure which is which. Also, particularly in reverse, because the High Priestess is super attractive. Everybody wants to, meet her, know her, talk to her, share her energy, be around her, right? Absorb from her. But when she's in reverse, she doesn't feel very attractive. She can even have like dysmorphia, whether it's body dysmorphia or like in general, like it's just not feeling nearly as attractive as everybody else says she is. So I think that may be why our focus for the next 2 weeks is going to be the moon in reverse. In terms of love, when the High Priestess in reverse shows up, there's still going to be a lot of people finding you more attractive than usual. But again, you may have a difficulty realizing that for yourself. So don't like jump to conclusions that somebody's feeding you a line of bullshit. Like, why does he keep saying, or why does she keep saying I'm attractive, like I'm disgusting? This person is lying to me. You may not get it. As a matter of fact, I watched something yesterday in this, I don't remember what it was, but this couple, the guy was like, it hurts my feelings. Oh, it was some kind of special about skin. It's going to be a new show that's coming on similar to that Dr. Pimple Popper. And this woman had the skin condition. And so she felt really unattractive and, ugly. But she was married, and the husband said he just saw a beautiful woman when he looked at her, and it hurt him. He understands he has to support her, and if she's not happy with herself, he wants to help her to feel better about herself. But it hurt him that she didn't believe him about how he feels. Like she sort of dismissed his feelings. Like, I see a beautiful woman. That's what I'm trying to convey with this high priestess in reverse. So don't jump to conclusions that, you know, somebody's running you a line of bullshit. Give them a chance. Listen to them. If your intuition is still telling you not to trust it, not to go further, then, you know, I have to agree with that. Always trust your intuition. But at the same time, your intuition may be off because still the high priestess is in reverse. And the moon is also in reverse. And it means the same thing. Like you could be off in what you think you know. You could be having trouble discerning illusion versus reality when the moon is in reverse. So let's talk more about the king, because that's our actual overall energy. I just revealed the high priestess in reverse sort of by accident. So the king of swords in reverse, the king of swords for me is often a lawyer or a judge even. He's very diplomatic and able to see like multiple perspectives, all sides of a problem, and then to try to discern in the most fair way who's right, who's wrong. And that may be why we have the energy of major arcana card justice here. Somebody may actually have legal situations going on, maybe specifically surrounding their work and finance, some sort of work, you know, like maybe workman's comp settlement or social security or VA, you know, like veterans benefits, some sort of pension or something. Maybe it was up in the air and you're due, or some sort of inheritance that you could be due. Maybe it had been in limbo, had to go to probate court or family court. There's a divorce. You got to see who gets the house, who gets the money. But with this justice, I'm skipping ahead now, but with this justice showing up in the position of work and finance and having an overall energy at the same time of the King of Swords, albeit in reverse, some of us may have actual legal situations or very serious business situations that we're working out. And guess what? In your favor. In your favor. Also, people could be making mistakes and errors. And so you may need to be the King of Swords type, like going through your receipt. I'm not saying you have to be like a, you know, receipt Nazi, but you know, going through your receipts, paying attention to your paycheck. It could be wrong. They could have made a mistake. You didn't get paid for enough hours. You didn't get paid for enough days. They forgot your vacation pay. I don't know. Your deductions are wrong. You know, they didn't copy over your W-4 properly or something like that. So just, you know, check your receipts, check your paycheck, check, you know, anything having to do with your finances that has like paperwork attached to it, especially, you know, if there's some sort of legality. Maybe the other side made a mistake and, you know, you're a lawyer or you can take advantage of it if you're representing yourself, like however it goes. You can take advantage of some sort of error that somebody else made and have it work for you in your favor. All right. So like I said, I skipped over to work and finance, and I do plan to come back to work and finance. But I wanted to talk about that aspect of the King of Swords because I'm still on him. So he's also like this really, really forceful, like super masculine kind of energy. There may be an actual King of Swords type person. It could be male or female, but to be more specific, perhaps an actual male and perhaps a direct air sign with whom you're dealing in whatever capacity. And he's going to be he's a very forceful energy, like an energy to reckon with. And you have to accept that you can't always change somebody's mind or change somebody, period. So like if he's somebody that you're in love with, for example, you are going to have to take him as he is, accept him as he is, that he is this sort of macho type and maybe even like stubborn to a fault sometimes, like you're getting in his own way or whatever, opinionated. And, you know, that may not be healthy. You may want to help him by trying to change him, you know, like, babe, you shouldn't be this way or whatever, but you're not going to change him. So it's like a matter of you needing to decide if you're going to accept him like that or, you know, walk away. However, in the position of love and relationships, we do have the Ace of Wands in reverse. So this is also a positive card. So I don't see too much walking away from a relationship necessarily, unless it's something that you want to. Like, for example, we have death crossing justice. and sitting over the Ace of Wands in reverse. So there could be, like I said, divorce, and that maybe that's walking away that somebody wants to happen. So that makes them happy. And we have death twice over, because in this other deck that I'm using, the the Psychic Tarot for the Heart, the card that we got as an overall energy is also card number 13, Release, which is, their equivalent of death. And I've been reading all the cards with the black borders. They're major arcana cards, because this tarot is specific to love. So it's nice to get some like new messages out of there, straight from the book. But yeah, death is marking an ending or a transition. So we could be leaving an energy behind. We could be leaving a debate, an argument behind, like if you were trying to change somebody and you were unsuccessful, or somebody's been trying to change you and they've, maybe they're accepting, I'm not going to be able to change this person. I'm going to have to love them as they are. I'm going to have to accept them as they are. And that could be another reason why the High Priestess is also in reverse, because maybe you felt like somebody's trying to change you, and that means they're not happy with you as you are. And so that means something must be wrong with you. You must be unattractive. And that problem is on them. That's not on you. They're going to need to realize, again, that they have to accept you for you or leave you alone. If you're involved in some sort of like spiritual organization or religious organization, it's possible that a religious leader or a spiritual leader is twisting some scenario to their own benefit, whatever that may mean in a given person's life. And as it relates to health, your doctor may not be listening to you, or your health practitioner, who maybe it's the same person, this spiritual person. Maybe you believe in going to somebody that is holistic or something. I don't know what I'm actually getting, but they may not be listening to you in terms of what your interpretation of, or whether interpretation or literal feelings and symptoms of what you're dealing with. And you got to make sure that you're your own advocate for yourself and for your health. All right, so I'm going to move on to the moon in reverse, which I sort of touched on a little bit, but we're going to get into it a little bit more. So, like I said, you may not know what you're talking about when the moon shows up in reverse. And this can be in any and every aspect of your life. It's a very psychic, very like intuitive phase. And again, death is sitting right next to it. And death is about phases. You could be moving through one. You could be transforming. You could be growing spiritually. But at the same time, you again, likely unclear about some of it. Like you're not trusting your instincts. You're not trusting your impressions, because it's hard to tell if you're getting, the accurate messages or if you're misinterpreting something. But even if you feel like you may be off, again, don't ignore the messages you're getting. Don't ignore your gut. At the end of the day, you're still, got to follow as best you can your intuition. In terms of work, things might not seem clear. You might be feeling very High Priestess in reverse. They're not happy with me at the job. I don't know if I'm doing well. I don't know if I did that right, and second guessing and questioning yourself. And it's easy to get into like conflicts and debates and stuff. If you're able to ask questions about stuff that you're sure of, then that's a good idea. If you're not in a position to ask questions, then again, you're going to do the best you can with what you have. If it's something that you're able to set aside and not work on until you feel more confident, until you can get answers, until this 2 weeks passes, then do that. It's also easy to get into conflict potentially with somebody. And again, it's very possible that you don't know what you're talking about. So if you can avoid conflict, let's do that. And the same is going to go for your partner, your romantic interests, your crushes. If you have any kind of, interaction or conflict, interaction or contact with them, it is very possible for there to be conflict right now. You may even want to take a break, because things can easily become like escalated, very, very heated, very, very negative. And sometimes you say things that are like below the belt that you can't come back from. So if you find yourself particularly anxious, upset, and maybe wanting to, like confront a love interest or whatever, you may want to consider the reading, think about the reading, and, reconsider whether or not you're going to actually go through with that, because you could say something that could end up being hurtful to your relationship and that you're unable to fix it. Like you can't just say I'm sorry and erase it. If you're single, you're looking for somebody, don't be in a hurry to begin a relationship right now. Again, let this, energy sort of pass and dissipate. It's just probably not the best time. And I'm wondering if I think the moon is actually in Pisces today. So I'm wondering if that's why this is showing up. But again, this is a 2-week reading, and I did focus on the air signs, and I did focus on the 2 weeks and ask, for messages for that period. So, I have to presume it's going to carry through. If you can hold off before starting a relationship, let's do that. So talked about death a lot already. It's about faith. Faith. Well, it could be about faith. Yeah. Just faith in the fact that you got to pay attention again to your intuition. That represents the sign of Scorpio, which is a very intuitive sign, and it guides us through very deep and often very spiritual transformation. But it could be transformation in any area, endings and new beginnings in any area. So speaking of new beginnings, it sits here atop our love and relationship, placement, which is the Ace of Wands. So that is automatically indicative of a new beginning that may be delayed somewhat. Maybe it's delayed somewhat because we're holding on to something else, either holding on to another relationship or holding on to aspects of it and energies that are not conducive to moving forward. And so that could cause a delay. And or some of us are literally like trying to hold out, like wait until our divorce is final or our separation or something is actually final before we start something new. We just found like trying to do all of the above, trying to be in a new relationship and end an old one wasn't working. It becomes too stressful. And so like we're holding out before moving into a new relationship, which some people would say is the right thing to do. I personally don't care. No judgment from me. If you're separated, you're divorced, whatever, if you consider yourself happy and you decide you want to do something else, I mind my business. But, there is an argument to suggest that we're supposed to wait until, our divorce and stuff is final anyway. So some of us may be going through that. It may specifically be somebody who has both air and fire in their chart. This dead man, angel of death, is holding a wand-like item in his hand. And then he's sitting atop the Ace of Wands. So I think that, that wand energy is very, very strong. And I'm feeling that it's a person that we're dealing with that is like both fire and air, or both fire and water, who's specifically going through the situation or scenario that I just described. Like their divorce is not final yet, and that's why you got to fall back. But since we're talking about love now, if you're clinging to a relationship that you're not happy in for the simple fact of you don't want to be alone, so that's like the other end of the spectrum, that's not a good idea either. But some of us could be holding on, holding on. And that's why we're not going to get the new energy, the fresh energy, until we let go of that old one. We're not going to get this new thing. Like Diddy and Cassie, I posted about them on my Facebook this week, on my social media. Cassie was with Diddy, Puff Daddy, whatever we're going to call him, for like 10 years. Right, a whole decade. It's no sooner than she left him. Within 1 year, all of this happened in 1 year. She was married, she was pregnant, she had a baby. Like your life can completely change, but not until you release the old toxic energy. So some of us could be holding on to a situation that's just not fixable. Not all relationships can be fixed. Some can, but we have to have an interest. We have to be willing to put forth the effort, and that has to be on both sides too. and then we can do it. So if that's not the case for you, you got to be willing to let something go. And again, maybe we're holding out because we're being stubborn, right? You know, we're being the King of Swords in reverse. So again, stubborn to a fault. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay in this relationship. I'm going to hold on to it, even though it sucks. I'm going to hurt me, you know, because yeah, I just can't, you know, you just can't change my mind. I'm going to be very difficult with myself. So if that's something we're dealing with, it's just that. It's just gonna have to be something that we're dealing with until we're over it. Yeah, just be brave and consider, you know, taking a leap of faith. Maybe that's why I slipped up and said this is about faith, because it's really not. It's really not, you know, except for in the way that I describe, like, because it's about transformation. So you have to have the faith to move through the transformation. But death is really, I've never heard anybody say, you know, oh yeah, this is major arcana card death. It's about faith. So yeah, I think that's why I said it, that where some of us are meant to take a leap of faith. And again, we have 2 death cards sitting here. And this one is specifically about love, so I'm definitely going to read that in a second. But first, let's look at justice for a moment, all right? So justice, major arcana, so it's a stronger energy than the minors. It is upright. It is in our favor. And again, it's especially with this placement here of work and finance. But in a general sense, it's all about balance, harmony, fairness, equity, equality, the universe, like evening out the playing field, evening out the scales. And it's supposed to include even our thoughts about ourselves. So to go back to the King of Swords in reverse and the High Priestess in reverse, we may have some imbalance there in that area, some of us, with justice showing up. But I think it's clear that we do, because the moon is in reverse and these cards are in reverse. In terms of love, we may be wondering if some sort of like long-term relationship that we have is going to hold together. And often when it appears, the answer is no. We're going to choose to go our separate ways. This is the end. And especially, again, with it crossing death, that just adds the extra element of that there. But I think that the Ace of Wands is in reverse rather than upright, because some of us are holding on to the last minute. But we are going to separate, and then that's going to give us a new beginning. This Ace of Wands will be flipped around upright. Whatever we do, if we're single, if we're in these long-term relationships, if we're confused about what to do, because remember, confusion also is indicative or indicated by this moon, whatever our case is, we need to be clear about, as clear as we're able to be with all these reverse cards, about what we want from a relationship, what we're willing to give. You know, we want to meet somebody halfway, all of that. And once we're clear about that, then we're more likely to find it. So again, whether we're single, whether we're partnered. Let's move on to work and finance with justice, because that is the placement that it's in. So it's a good time for chance, gambling, stock market for you to. It's a good time for you to invest in Hasbro. When the card appears in the placement of money or placement of finance, it can mean usually not tremendous, but you know, a windfall nonetheless, like in its own respects. So, you know, maybe not millions, but you know, some like money out of nowhere, like falling out of the sky, a check showing up in the mail that you not at all were expecting. And it's funny because I think the last time that I spoke specifically to Gemini, I remember the last biweekly that I did for them, or was it the general reading? It was the general reading last week. I said to Gemini, your check is held up in the mail. You're just tired of the delays. You've had it. So something like that could be turning around for air signs, maybe Geminis in specific. But maybe you're not even expecting the check still to show up this week, and this week it shows up. Just money that you weren't expecting to get, that you didn't realize you were due possibly, is coming your way, or very possible that it's coming your way. even if you don't decide to gamble or take a risk or whatever, and you weren't expecting anything, you can still, have it come to you. And that's always a good thing. Like surprise money. I love it. We are guided, if that happens though, to, use it wisely, whatever that means for you. In terms of work, we need to make sure that our work and our play is in balance, that our life is in balance. Too much, focus or emphasis on either side throws the other side out of balance. And so we want the scales to be even. Again, we want the playing field to be even. And so we have to put our own effort into that too. And, if you've just been working, packing on the hours and stuff like that, then maybe some time for play is necessary. Maybe you can afford to go ahead and go down to the bar with your friends for New Year's Eve or whatever it is. Or just any given weekend in between here, or whatever, and have a good time. Or do whatever it is you like to do. Nurture yourself in some sort of way. I like to go get massages sometimes, get my nails done, acupuncture. I'm into all this kind of stuff. Whatever you're into that is, that will be nurturing to you, that is not work, that is you not lifting a finger to work. Do some of that if you've been doing too much work, or to the contrary, if you've been doing too much play, it's time to put some more focus into your work and to get that area of your life in balance also. And lastly, love. The Ace of Wands in reverse is still an Ace of Wands. So again, it is a good card. It is about new beginnings always. And this is going to be about new beginnings specifically in love and relationship. It can also be about the birth of a child. Wands are very phallic for me. Maybe the birth of a child. Okay, maybe you're with a Scorpio or a Libra or Pisces or another air sign. You could be with anybody, but those are the signs that are coming up particularly significant in this spread here. So birth of a child. If you're not ready to have a child, oh my goodness, the love reading, part of the love reading got cut off. And I'm so sorry that it did. Because if you had seen, I used like 3 or 4 tarot decks in that reading. And so we had all of the energy repeating. The Empress came out like 3 or 4 times this weekend. And so if you're not ready, I was already going to say it just with this showing up, but then I just thought about the Empress and how many times we saw her. Of course, she's about fertility and all of that. And also, the Venus is the Empress, and Venus rules the sign of Libra too, which is sitting, Justice, which is sitting right next to it. If you don't want to get pregnant, do whatever the precautions you're into to prevent getting pregnant, whether you're a male, whether you're a female, so if you're a man, you're responsible for your own condom or whatever it is. Don't rely on the woman if you don't want to have a baby. Female, you're not interested in having a baby. You're responsible for whatever it is you're going to do. I don't know. Rhythm, if you don't believe in using birth control, sponge, whatever, you're responsible. I'm not talking about necessarily in a legal sense or, as far as justice. I'm talking about in terms of protecting yourself within the period of this 2 weeks. That's all. That's my scope. Also, it's easy to have misunderstandings. And again, this is crossing the moon, which I told you it's easy to have misunderstandings with the moon. And you can even say something that could, totally fuck up your relationship. So you're going to want to be super careful. Think before you speak. Say what you mean what you say. Listen to your partner. Don't just hear them and like womp, 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 like they're talking like a Charlie Brown character. Actually listen to what they have to say. All right, so now I want to read this card number 13, Release, for you. And let me grab the book here. Release. All right, got it. Keywords associated with this card: discard, shed, end, transformation, freedom, empowerment, an opportunity for renewal, around affairs of the heart is available at this time. And it's quite possible that this renewal will happen through release. It's in letting go that you discover what remains. What is truly yours? Sometimes in relationships, you may feel that the need to hold on tightly to those that you love, whether or not this love is returned. So even unreciprocated love, this person is not giving it back to us. We're clinging on to these people. This can lead to tension and unhappiness for all involved. Even in a good relationship, holding on too tightly doesn't allow the relationship to breathe, to grow, to mature. And I think Libras like to be with or around, near, up under their partners quite a bit. But I can tell you Geminis don't and Aquarians don't. I'm not saying we never do. Everybody likes to cuddle and be up under their partner sometimes, but those are two signs that absolutely need their freedom, especially Aquarius. It is the sign of freedom. That's one of its major traits. And so we definitely don't want to be too clingy over an air sign. And you as an air sign would know that. So somebody may be trying to do that to you. Explain to them why that's not okay, why that's not conducive to growth if you want to hold on to that relationship. So this can lead to tension and unhappiness for all involved. Even in a good relationship, holding on too tightly doesn't allow the relationship to breathe, to grow, to mature. Are you restricting someone or trying to attract someone through your will? Discard any need for control and see how the relationship transforms. Allow it to be organic, yeah. Watch how releasing the overwhelming need for a relationship allows the perfect one to appear. Shed any beliefs and behaviors that do not serve your highest good. Throughout life, we receive many mixed and often incorrect messages. And that's what our cards are saying, right? The Pisces, the moon is saying we could be getting incorrect messages. And we do receive many of those throughout life about how our relationship should work. Let go of any preconceived notions or expectations about your relationship or your lack of them. By doing so, your current relationships can flow and flourish in a way that is best for everyone. By being yourself, you attract to you the relationship that will serve you best. This is also a card of possible endings. Are there relationships that you cling to that you would be better leaving? In letting go of a stagnant or difficult situation, you empower yourself, opening the way for new and rewarding relationships. And if you choose, you can also speak this affirmation. I let go of expectations and open myself to relationships that flow and grow. Further to that, one card for each archetype from this deck as well. The masculine's card is 1 in the blue border, clarity of belief. This is like the Ace of Swords. And the Ace of Swords is about truth. It is about justice. It is about victory. So again, those of you who got a legal situation, something or just something going on at the job where you're due money, they made a mistake in your check. Again, they made a mistake in your check, or something. Stuff is coming out in your favor. It is a time to say what you mean what you say. The truth will set you free. Okay? And feminine, blossom. It's another one of these major arcana cards. So let me read that one for you too. Blossom. And that is Judgment in the tarot. I think card number 20 is Judgment, which also represents the sign of Scorpio and the planet Pluto, its ruler. And is about abundance that is earned, that is due you, that is coming. You can either earn it through your labors, your actual work, or through your karma, right? The work that you've done to the universe, maybe on behalf of or toward humanity even. And so you're benefiting from that. Also, as it relates to relationships, judgment is about coming to a crossword and deciding, like, where do we go from here, if anywhere? And some people aren't going any further. Some people need to let go. Some people are going all the way, and we got a new beginning ahead of us. So let's see what this booklet says. Keywords: awaken, transform, stretch, possibilities, direction, growth. Matters of the heart are much like flowers. In the bud stage, the relationship is in the state of potential. It requires loving care and the attention to help it to grow, develop, and to bloom. The people involved in the relationship must be willing to trust and open themselves to each other. With the proper amount of nurturing, the relationship will blossom and bring beauty to the lives of those who are involved. It's time for you to nurture the potential of your relationships. New life and love are waiting for you. You have only to reach out and to take hold. Seize the energies of renewal that surround you now and allow yourself to blossom like a beautiful butterfly. And beautiful flower. I don't know why I saw a butterfly there. I actually like a red butterfly. A beautiful flower. Awaken to the possibilities, maybe because death. Wait a minute. Yeah, somebody specifically dealing with a Scorpio. Like very specifically. And you guys are at some sort of crossroad and you got to decide what you're doing. That doesn't mean you need to walk away from each other. You can have a new beginning, but you got to decide. A blossom follows the sun because its warmth and light nurture the flower and infuse it with energy. The sun even provides some of the nutrients needed by the blossom. What is the sun in your own life? What nurtures you and helps you to thrive? Do your relationships provide what you need? If not, it may be time to transform your life and to grow in a new direction. You are in a period of growth regarding affairs of the heart. Stretch yourself and your ideas of what you believe is possible, and know, in fact, that all things are possible if you will only follow your sun. Affirmation: I awaken to the beauty of relationships that nurture me. I hope that you guys have enjoyed the biweekly. I will be back on the 13th of January, God willing, to do another one. Namaste.